The Wisconsin Badgers are up today in the official 2020 Uncle Lou College Football team-by-team preview and game-by-game predictions. The Wisconsin Badgers out of the Big Ten West. Before I get to today's video, thank you guys for all the support on yesterday's video, the LSU video. That one did amazing. I'm really glad you guys enjoyed that video. Thanks for sharing it. Thanks for the thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. It's amazing. Please continue to share these videos if you don't mind. Pick one of your favorites or whatever and share it somewhere. Trying to get to 40,000 subscribers. Can't do it by myself. I need you guys' help. So again, big shout out, huge thank you for all the support yesterday. Let's do it again today with the Wisconsin Badgers. Hey, good morning, it's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on LouTube today, so thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. You know, I post college football videos almost every single day of the year here on the Uncle Lou channel. Don't forget about the second channel, Uncle Lou on LouTube, where we do live shows 5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, and then Tuesday and Thursday, we do them at night, 10 p.m. I guess technically that's 4 days a week, 6 shows, 4 days a week. Check it out. The link to the second channel is in the description down below. But up today, the preview for the Wisconsin Badgers. This comes as a suggestion from over on the Patreon page by none other than Who Had They Played? Yeah, probably the best name on the Uncle Lou Patreon page. Shout out to you. Who had they played for supporting Uncle Lou over on the Patreon page? I really appreciate it. And of course, the clear answer is nobody. We know that if we've been around this channel any amount of time at all. Nobody. Ain't never played nobody. We already know that. It happens every season. We'll hear it again this season. But who have they played? If you want to support the channel over on the Patreon page, there's a link down there. Just click the link that says support the channel and join the Patreon page. Take you over there. Click the link, check it out, support the show. All right, Wisconsin Badgers, head coach Paul Chryst, right? Entering year 6 now for him in Madison. Been to 3 New Year's 6 bowls while he's there. 10-2 last year in the regular season before finishing 10-4, losing the Big Ten championship game and the Rose Bowl, I believe, to Oregon, right? Yeah, 8-5 the year before that. That's been his worst year. 13-1, 11-3, 10-3. You can almost do a Wisconsin preview every single year by just hitting record and probably going 10-2. And you'd probably be right or close to right almost every single year. Wisconsin seems like one of those teams that wins 10 games in their sleep. They've had a hard time getting over the hump and winning the Big Ten or making a real push for the playoffs or anything like that. But they've been a consistently good team under Paul Chryst. Like I said, entering year 6 now. Made the Rose Bowl for the first time in 7 years. Wisconsin did last year, of course, losing to Pac-12 champ Oregon. Let's take a look at Wisconsin's recruiting classes. I like to do this on all these videos. I take a look at the last 4 classes. That's what primarily makes up a roster. So when you're talking about what type of talent Paul Chryst has to work with at Wisconsin, most of the roster is made up of the last 4 classes. Yeah, there's some fifth-year seniors that were maybe in the class before. You've got transfers both in and out. But it gives you a pretty good idea of the overall talent level that a team is working with. In 2020, Wisconsin finished 26th nationally in recruiting, so just out of the top 25. That was good enough for 5th in the Big Ten. Year before, 2019, 29th nationally recruiting, 6th within the Big Ten. 2018, 46th nationally, and 9 in the Big Ten. 2017, 39 nationally, 7 in the Big Ten. So they improved each year, or they improved from 18 to 19, going from 46th to 29th, but then 26th again last year. This is kind of who Wisconsin is, right? No one really expects Wisconsin to ever recruit within the top 10 or be one of the most talented teams in America. But they do get the most of the talent they have, and they do a good job of recruiting in several key positions, of course, primarily offensive line and running back. It seems like every single year they have an NFL running back. We're going to talk more about that coming up here in a few minutes with the loss of Jonathan Taylor. But pretty average recruiting classes, really. Even within the Big Ten, you're talking about the 5th best, the 6th best, the 9th best, and the 7th best. They definitely perform higher than their recruiting ranking would indicate. And again, key recruiting in what they consider to be key areas, offensive line and running back. Let's take a look at at the roster for 2020. Who'd they lose from last year? Who's coming back? They're going to be better, worse on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball. Let's see if we can find out. They lose their 5 best players, at least in my opinion, who were their 5 best players, including 3 juniors who left early for the NFL, led by, of course, all-world running back Jonathan Taylor, who gets 2,000 yards a season in his sleep, right? Wisconsin values development over recruiting. So if you're trying to look on their roster to find the next highly ranked 5-star guy who's going to step in this year, you're not going to find him. What you will find is a lot of 4 stars and a lot of highly ranked 3 stars who are getting excellent development at Wisconsin. Let's start with the quarterback position. Jack Cohn is back. Is it Cohn or Cohen? I think it's Cohn. That's what I'm going to call him. 69% completion last year, 2,700 yards. Pedestrian. I mean, there's just no other way to describe that. Not that he's bad, but look at some of the elite teams in college football, the teams that were in the playoffs last year. Look at their quarterback situations. Clearly, those teams are going to have better quarterbacks than Jack Cohn. 69%, 2,700 yards from your quarterback. Pretty average in today's college football. These are Jake Fromm numbers, honestly. And you guys know, but I'm not his biggest fan. 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's a senior this year. I guess most people think he's going to start again, but they've got a young guy that I think we need to keep an eye on. I think can really push Jack Cohn for some serious playing time and maybe even a starting job down the road. Now, he may have been hampered a little bit with no spring ball and no real offseason program. You may end up having to go with Jack Cohn, the more experienced guy. But this Graham Mertz here, probably the most talented quarterback on the roster. Now, he lacks the experience you get from Jack Cohn, and Paul Chryst likes to use these quarterbacks that he knows he can rely on. They're not flashy. They're not going to throw for 4,000 yards. They're not going to run for 1,000 yards. They're not going to score 40 touchdowns. But you know what you're going to get, and they're not going to make a ton of mistakes. Again, he only had the 5 interceptions last year. But I would not be surprised to see Graham Mertz get some serious playing time this year and potentially push Jack Cohn for that starting job at some point in the season. Running back. Mertz redshirted last year, by the way. But anyway, running back. Jonathan Taylor, of course, is gone, and there's just no replacing a talent like that. Now, Wisconsin never lacks for star running backs, for talented running backs. But Jonathan Taylor's do not grow on trees. Getting the amount of carries that Jonathan Taylor got is almost unheard of in today's college football, where you see a lot of teams, Georgia, Alabama, the list goes on, Ohio State, that use multiple running backs. So to get 1,300 yards really in today's college football is pretty good at the running back position. To get over 2,000 is just unheard of. And he did it basically in his sleep. 2,255 total yards last year, 26 touchdowns. There is no one guy on Wisconsin's team that's going to replace that. Running back by committee approach in 2020, maybe. How good is the offensive line going to be again? I think those are going to be some factors that go into how good of a season Wisconsin can have. Wisconsin could have close to the same number of total rushing yards they had last year, but they're not going to have any one running back that puts up these ridiculous Jonathan Taylor numbers. You got Garrett Groshek, is that his name? He's got experience, been basically a third down back at Wisconsin. Maybe he could see his role increase in 2020 and become more of a primary running back, getting some action on first and second downs too. We'll see. Running back Nakia Watson. Some talent, but he's been very inconsistent at Wisconsin. If you watched a lot of Wisconsin games, especially if you're a Wisconsin fan, you sort of know what I'm talking about there. And you got a couple of young guys that we really haven't seen do anything at all at Wisconsin yet. But again, could one of these guys be the next guy at the running back position for Wisconsin? They're both highly rated 4 stars. You got Isaac Gorindo and Jalen Berger. If I'm saying these names wrong, I apologize. Again, I don't name these players. It's just my job to say their name wrong. And I'm doing a pretty good job of that. Tight end, Jake Ferguson, he may be the best player on your offense this year if you don't find a star running back. I really like your tight end. I think he's a future NFL player. At wide receiver, this has been an issue at Wisconsin really for a while. There's no obvious go-to guy at Wisconsin. There's no obvious true number 1 wide receiver at Wisconsin, I don't think, anyway. If it's 3rd and 6, and you got to have a guy that can go up and get the ball for a first down. I don't know who you would pick on Wisconsin. You could draw a name out of the hat. Nobody really stands out. You got Danny Davis III, Kendrick Pryor. They've got a ton of experience. A.J. Abbott, Bracey. You know, one of those 2 guys maybe steps up this year and becomes the true number 1. Hard to really know right now. There's not really a wide receiver on Wisconsin's roster that I can point to or look at and go, you know what, I think that guy could end up being a really, really good wide receiver. Not that these wide receivers are bad, but when you're talking about ascending into the star or elite category of wide receivers within college football or even within just the Big Ten, hard to find somebody on Wisconsin's roster right now at the wide receiver position that you would feel comfortable saying that about. Maybe I'm wrong, and we'll see. Offensive line, huge loss with losing your center, Tyler. I'm not even going to try to say his last name. Biadasz. Any name that ends in SZ is a problem. He's gone to the NFL. Another guy that even though you recruit well along the offensive line, going to be hard to replace him. Oh, side note, too, about Wisconsin's recruiting along the offensive line. You know where Wisconsin searches for and recruits offensive linemen? Hockey. That's right. There was a special, I'm not sure if this was on ESPN TV or if I read it online somewhere, about Wisconsin's recruiting, particularly at the offensive line position, and interviewed several of the coaches. They go out and scout high school hockey games, and that's where they find a lot of their offensive linemen. Anyway, just thought I would mention that because I thought it was an interesting story when I heard it. They're going to be moving some guys around on the offensive line this year, too. Trying to find the best group of 5 based on where, each player might fit in best. Again, Wisconsin recruits pretty well along the offensive line. I think they'll have a good offensive line. The center position is a concern. That's one of, center and left tackle, if you have a right-handed quarterback, the 2 most important positions along an offensive line, in my opinion. Right tackle a close third, or the off tackle, whichever one it happens to be, based on whether you're right-handed or wrong-handed, like Tua Tagovailoa. But anyway, I don't have any real concerns about Wisconsin's offensive line. It seems like they always have a good offensive line. I don't have any reason to think that won't be the case again in 2020. The center being maybe the lone exception to that. He was really, really good. Let's take a look at you over on the other side of the ball on defense. You lose 2 really good linebackers, star linebackers, really, Chris Orr and Zach Brown. They combined for 24 sacks and 33.5 tackles for loss last year. That's amazing. Those 2 guys, 24 sacks, unreal. You got Leo Chenal. He played some last year as a true freshman. He'll clearly play a whole lot more in 2020, and he'll be able to give you, I think, some of the production that you're missing by losing Orr and Brown. What's the other guy's name? Oh, Sanborn. He's back at inside linebacker. Another good player. Don't know if he is great. Maybe he can become great this year, but again, reliable, experienced starter. He's back in the middle for you at the linebacker position. You got Burks and Green, May on the outside. Those 2 talented. You got some talented freshmen, too, from your recruiting class. You may see a lot of players play on defense for Wisconsin early in the season until they try to figure out sort of the best group to put up front. But I think they're talented enough along the defensive front to not take a huge step back defensively in 2020. Defensive line loaded with experience and talent. It's really the linebacker position where the concerns are when you talk about the front 7 at Wisconsin. Secondary also returns a ton of talent. Safety Eric Burrell, probably an NFL guy, your best secondary player for sure. He had a ton of defended passes last year. I didn't write the numbers down, but a very good player at the safety position for you. He might even be your leading returning tackler. I think I might have read that too. If I'm wrong, somebody will let me know. So the defense, if you can figure out the linebacker spots, I think Wisconsin's defense could be better than it was in 2019. Not going to be easy to replace Orr and Brown. Those were 2 star linebackers. We'll see what guys can step up to try to fill that in. If you can find them, I think you'll be better defensively in 2020 than you were in 2019. Offensively, I have more questions. A lot of it, I think, depends on the development of Graham Mertz. Jack Cohn is a decent, reliable, average, pedestrian, run-of-the-mill quarterback. There's 50 quarterbacks probably in any given class that can give you 2,700 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. When you start talking about QBs that can give you 3,500 plus, 4,000 plus yards, those are few and far between. Can Graham Mertz be that guy? I don't know. Even if he could be that guy, does Wisconsin want to have that type of an offense? They may have to at least move closer towards that direction with Jonathan Taylor being gone. There are a lot of questions about Wisconsin's offense this year when you look at Cohn versus Mertz and how do they replace Jonathan Taylor and the center. So offense, to me, I'm in a wait and see mode on Wisconsin's offense for this year. Hard for me to believe they're going to be as good on the ground without Jonathan Taylor as they were with him. They will still be really, really good because they always are. Not sure if they'll be as good. And Jack Cohn, I don't know that he can get any better than what he did last year. So unless Mertz steps up as a better passer, maybe somebody that's a little more dynamic and can make some more plays with his arm, maybe your offense finds a way to take another step forward, but I'm in a wait-and-see mode on that. All right, let's put the schedule up on the screen. We'll go through it game by game, and we'll see what it looks like. All right, here you go, Wisconsin's 2020 schedule. Slow down. You going to tell them about the Slob Olympics or what? Yeah, Slob Olympics. Thank you. Have a good morning. Wisconsin's 2020 schedule. I got it up on the screen here. We're going to go through it game by game. I'm going to give you a winner and a loser for every single game on their schedule. Try to give you a reason or an explanation as to why I'm picking the way that I am. You start things off on a Friday night, September 4th, week 1, hosting Indiana. Conference matchup to start things off week 1. If for some reason they decide to go with Graham Mertz, this game could be interesting because we just haven't seen him play a whole lot. I have a feeling that won't be the case. Like I mentioned, especially with no spring practice, no real offseason program, hard not to start a returning starter, in my opinion. Now, that doesn't mean Mertz won't take over at some point later in the season. Maybe he will, but I expect to see a lot of Jack Cohn week 1 against Indiana. And honestly, no matter what you lost from last year, you're still a better, more talented, more well-coached team than Indiana. This is a Friday game. We do see some weird things happen on Fridays, but those are usually Fridays during the season, not week 1. So it's not like this is a short week. It's week 1, right? And it's a home game. You do see a lot of ranked teams lose to unranked teams on Friday. Usually that's during the middle of the season, and it's on the road. Either of those things apply here. You'll beat Indiana without a problem. Week 2, a non-con game, Southern Illinois win. Even if your offense were to somehow fall off the face of the earth, I don't see a way where you lose this game here. Wisconsin's not really a team that's known for dropping the ball or losing to these lower classification teams. They're a pretty consistent team. What you see is what you get with Wisconsin, whether they're playing Ohio State or Penn State or Minnesota, or whether they're playing Southern Illinois. They seem to bring the same thing week in and week out. No reason to expect that won't be the case here in week 2 against Southern Illinois. I think Wisconsin rolls and wins big. And I think that's the week where potentially we could see a lot of Graham Mertz. Even if Jack Cohn starts, I would expect Wisconsin to get out to a pretty big lead in this game. You typically take the starting quarterback out in those situations anyway. Why not do it here in this game? Give the kid a chance, Graham Mertz, see what he can do. It's inferior competition, I know, but it'll give you a general idea of what you're working with there in some live action football. I expect to see a lot of Graham Mertz in week 2. Week 3, you got another non-con game against a group of 5 school, a non-power 5 school, App State. But this is no pushover. App State loves beating these big teams. Of course, Michigan 100 years ago, whenever that was, back in 2007, I think it was. And I think they beat North Carolina last year. I'm pretty sure they did. Might have beat another team, too.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Yeah, might have. But anyway, I expect Wisconsin to win this game. It's at home. And despite the reputation that App State has of being a giant killer or whatever it is, until last year, they hadn't beat a Power 5 team since they beat Michigan way back in 2007. So they got a lot of life out of that Michigan win. Every single season when I would do these videos for the last 5 or 6 years, it never failed. Somebody would have App State on the schedule, and all in the comment section would be, oh, wait, App State, watch out. Remember they beat Michigan. Never mind the fact that was way back in 2007, and they lost to like 15 Power 5 teams in a row after that by an average score of about 45-20. People somehow forgot that, but they did beat some Power 5s last year. I wouldn't overlook them, but I think Wisconsin gets it done at home. They're sitting at 3-0. Now you got to go on the road and play Michigan. Boy, Michigan's a lot like Wisconsin. They can win 9-10 games, can't seem to get over the hump. Very inconsistent, average, even sometimes subpar quarterback play. But you got to play on the road at Michigan. I think you lose this game. Now, this could go either way. I've already done a Michigan preview where I talked a lot about this game. If this game was in Wisconsin, I would probably pick Wisconsin to win. I don't think Michigan's going to be a great team this year. I'm tired of getting fooled by that same banana in the tailpipe routine that this is the year for Michigan and they can finally beat Ohio State. It's just never going to happen, honestly. But what is going to happen is they're going to beat you at home. I think you catch your first loss of the season in week 4 in the big house at Michigan. And you play Notre Dame, so you got back-to-back tough games here. And this was a neutral site game in Green Bay. So it's in the state of Wisconsin, but it's not played in your place there to jump around, arena, whatever it is, what you call it. It's played in Green Bay. take that for what it's worth. Notre Dame plays like 19 neutral site games this year for no particular reason. I don't know if they're tired of looking at touchdown Jesus or what. If Notre Dame loses another major bowl game or playoff, though, touchdown Jesus is liable to convert to Islam. That's how bad it's getting in South Bend. Unfortunately, I think Notre Dame beats you too. I think Notre Dame, Michigan, Wisconsin, I think these are similar teams. I think these are all really, really good teams that aren't quite in the category of your Clemsons, your Alabamas, your LSUs, your Ohio States, Oklahoma, Georgia. I don't think they're in that category. They're good, not great. They have some great years, I guess. I think Notre Dame beats you too. You drop 2 in a row to Michigan and Notre Dame. Then you got to play Minnesota. This is a brutal 3 stretch of games here. These are definitely 3 top 25 teams. It's possible they're 3 top 15 teams, and it's possible 1 or 2 of these teams is in the top 10. This is a brutal stretch. At Michigan, neutral site Notre Dame, home against Minnesota. I've got you beating Minnesota. That's not a gimme either. Minnesota is going to be really, really good. I was wrong about Minnesota all offseason. I kept saying, no way they win 10 games again. They're going to, they can't duplicate that. After doing this version of this video on Minnesota last week, I think it was, I don't know, Minnesota might get to 10 wins again. These 3 games are really hard to pick. I think they're all pretty close to 50-50 games. I think you go 1-2. So if you disagree with who I have you beating or losing to, fine. I think you go 1-2 in these 3 games. That leaves you at 4-2 heading into your bye week. You come out of your bye week after that tough 3-game stretch, and this is a good place to have it. Maybe the only better place to have this bye week would be during these 3 games, maybe after the Notre Dame game or after the Michigan game. But this is a pretty good place for your bye week, close to the middle of the season after some tough games there. You can lick your wounds, regroup, make any changes maybe that are necessary. Come out of that, you got to go on the road and play Maryland. Unfortunately, I think you lose to Maryland. Listen, I don't think Maryland's a great team or anything like that, not even close. They're not a 10-win team. They're not winning a division, anything like that. I do think they're trending in the right direction. I do think they've got some interesting pieces in some key places. And I do think they will beat somebody this year that people don't see coming. And unfortunately for you, Wisconsin fan, I think it's you. I think you dropped this game at Maryland. Listen, it's just hard for me to buy into Wisconsin offensively this year. I have serious questions about the quarterback position. I don't know what I'm getting with Mertz, even if he becomes the starting quarterback. I do know what I'm getting with Jack Cohn, and it's a guy that's just not going to win you any games. He's just not. The best you can hope for with a quarterback like Cohn is that he doesn't lose you any games. But he's not, his arm's not winning you any games, and he's not a great runner. It's just way too many questions. You lose Jonathan Taylor. I don't think you can replace that. I think that's going to hurt a lot. Jonathan Taylor is one of my favorite. I don't hate Wisconsin. I mean, I've been watching Jonathan Taylor, and I've been talking about Jonathan Taylor for the last 2 years like I was related to him. I mean, I love watching him play. One of my favorite players in all of college football, but he's gone. It's just hard for me to buy in to Wisconsin offensively, and I think losing Jonathan Taylor, the iffy quarterback situation, I just think it's going to cost you a game or 2 along the way somewhere this year, and I think one of those is on the road at Maryland. Listen, if I'm wrong about Mertz and he comes out and is a dynamic, elite, game-changing, playmaking quarterback and is winning some games for you with his arm or his legs or whatever the case may be, maybe you win on the road at Maryland. Maybe you even go 2-1 in this 3-game stretch at Michigan versus Notre Dame and home against Minnesota. Maybe you even go 2-1 there instead of going 1-2. So I could clearly be wrong here, but those are just too many unknowns. I have to go with what I know now. And with what I know now, this is what I think is going to happen. You lose on the road at Maryland. And you come back home and play Illinois. You should beat Illinois. Of course, you should have beat them last year. One of the weirdest games in all of college football last year, Wisconsin and Illinois. You were steamrolling people and then somehow found a way to lose to Illinois. It was the weirdest thing. You had like 4 shutouts or something your defense did, and you were on a roll, and Illinois just completely humiliated you. It was very strange. I think you get revenge this year. I don't see something that weird happening to the same team 2 years in a row. I think you get to win at home against Illinois. On the road at Northwestern, team that was disappointing last year. Pat Fitzgerald, been there forever, played there. Now he coaches there. Another guy that tends to get the most out of the available talent he has. Northwestern, a very hard place to recruit to, very high academic standards. Not a traditionally great team with a good recruiting base or anything like that. I don't know if they'll be as bad as they were last year. They may be a little bit better, and you do have to play them there. And Northwestern is a team we've seen pull some upsets off several times over the last few years. I don't think it happens here. I think you get the win on the road at Northwestern. You got to play at Purdue. Back-to-back road games at Northwestern and at Purdue. You could easily lose one of these two games. I've got you beating Purdue, and I think Purdue is going to be a pretty good team this year. They threw for a bazillion yards last year with playing 3 or 4 different quarterbacks. That's settled now. They got their quarterback now. Rondale Moore went down in week 1 last year, so they were able to do all that through the air last year without one of the best receivers in all of college football, and Rondale Moore. He's back. He's one of the most exciting players in all of college football. I love watching him too. I'm glad he's back. You could easily lose this game on the road at Purdue. So if you're upset maybe with the Maryland loss or whatever, you switch it around, give yourself a loss to Purdue. But I've got you beating Purdue on the road, which would be a good win. I think Purdue's going to surprise some people this year and be a pretty good team. You come home, play Nebraska, another team I'm done falling for. The Scott Frost thing so far has not worked out. Adrian Martinez regressed in year 2. He looked worse last year than he did as a true freshman in Scott Frost's first year there. Their defense has been atrocious most of the time outside of Adrian Martinez. Most people watching this video can't name one player on Nebraska's offense. They've just been forgettable. It's been a disappointment. I know it's only been 2 years, but the expectations were ridiculous at Nebraska when they hired Scott Frost. Everybody, myself included, pointed to what he did year 2 at Central Florida and the turnaround he did there, and that has not happened at Nebraska. Scott Frost has found out why Central Florida does not make it to the playoffs even when they think they deserve to. Playing Power 5 teams every week, not the same as playing 2 a year spread out over a 3-month period. These games are rough, tough, and brutal. Nebraska and Scott Frost has paid the price. I'm done buying into them. You beat them without a problem. Then you got to go on the road and play Iowa. Loss. This is a game where if you had it at home, again, I would probably pick you. I think you and Iowa are the same team with different uniforms on. Basically, talent-wise, I like both the coaches here, but it's at Iowa. That's a tough place to win. Iowa beat Minnesota last year at home, which was a great win. I could see a similar thing here. Low-scoring game, probably drag this thing out or speed the game up, I mean. I think you understand what I'm trying to say. I don't even understand what I'm trying to say. Point is, I do think you lose on the road to Iowa to cap what probably will be a disappointing season for Wisconsin. If this comes true, this would put you at 8-4. Again, 10-2 last year, 8-5 the year before, 13-1, 11-3, 10-3. But I've got you taking a pretty big step back. I've been over the reasons why. Just to reiterate one more time, Jonathan Taylor, gone. You're not replacing him. Your center, gone. Although I have less questions about your offensive line. It seems like you find a good one every year. I just don't think you can replace Jonathan Taylor, even if you have a couple of running backs and try to use them to give you what you're missing from Jonathan Taylor. I don't think it will happen. And the quarterback situation, no matter which way you go, it's too much up in the air. If you go with Jack Cohn, we know what you're getting, and it's not that impressive. If you go with Mertz, it's a total unknown. So I think you go 8-4. The West is getting a little bit better, I think, when you look at a team like Minnesota. And I don't think Wisconsin is the team this year that can win the division. I've got you at 8-4. All right, appreciate you guys tuning into this Wisconsin preview. Don't forget, share this video somewhere if you haven't already. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Knock on your neighbor's door, make them watch it. Tell them to subscribe to Uncle Lou and watch every day like they're supposed to. Did you know that watching Uncle Lou every day will lower your cholesterol? Yeah, it will. Shout out Slob Olympics, and I'll see you guys again real soon. Have a good morning.